What it do, cuckolds? It's your boy the Hater, once again up in this mug. And I just want to start this video off by saying, how is it that I'm not the #1 YouTuber about wrestling? Let's be honest, I predicted this card to the T. The only explanation is they stole the haters' ideas, or obviously the more likely explanation that this card was garbage to the point where I could easily predict how everything basically went down in the main event. Now, without further ado, before we talk about the main event, we gotta do what we usually do, and that is talk about this show segment by segment. But I will say this, I predicted exactly what happened in the main event, down to every minute detail. And then Wade Barrett says, an end that nobody saw coming. I saw it coming. You can go back like 2 or 3 videos where I predict that the exact thing that happened. You understand me? Absolutely 100% predicted by me. You dig? Now, none of that matters, obviously, because as we all know, this was night 1, the final match, the main event, quote unquote. Well, I should just call it the final match of the night. It's not a main event. But the final match had no bearing on anything, right? It was a really stupid match. Everything was kind of dumb. I will say this. If you didn't predict it like I did, I could see someone enjoying this match because it had elements of a good match. Like a lot of finishers, some suspense, quote unquote, a twist. But if you're a fan of the haters, then you should have seen the twist coming too, because I straight up said it. Now let's get to it, segment by segment, starting with the first match. Uso versus Gunther, right? This is the opening match because the title and match don't matter at all, right? Gunther at one point does a top rope splash. It looks horrible. They decide to show it in slow motion later for added humiliation. So we see how Gunther's man boobs jiggle mid-flight, right? The match keeps going. The crowd does like Jey Uso, so you gotta give them that at least, right? But basically the match ends as follows. Jey Uso counters the powerbomb, Gunther's powerbomb that is, into a powerbomb of his own, then does 3 splashes, right? When he does the 3 splashes, which was a pretty common theme today, right? Like people doing their finishers multiple times in a row, Michael Cole's like, he's not sure if one will work. Or whoever it was, I think it was Michael Cole. It may have been somebody else who said that, right? And it's like, this kind of begs the kayfabe question of, why doesn't someone just do their finisher 5 times in a row? You know what I mean? Why doesn't someone just like, like for example, The Rock, do the rock bottom, pick the guy up, rock bottom again. Or even better, just do the people's elbow multiple times, right? Because you're already there, you might as well just do it. But whatever, it is what it is. After the 3 splashes, I'm thinking to myself, no way Gunther's kicking out. Not even Hulk Hogan can kick out of 3 finishers. But none of that happens. Jay puts like a weak-looking sleeper hold on him. Gunther taps out almost immediately. Jay becomes the champion. Jimmy comes out. They hug it out. Okay, fine. It was a feel-good moment. It was a WrestleMania moment, quote-unquote, in the sense that something that doesn't typically happen happened, right? Someone had their Kofi Mania moment. This is literally that, right? Jey Uso is just the next Kofi Mania, which was the next, Yes movement, etc., etc. All that stuff went down exactly as everyone thought. I knew that Jey Uso was going to win. Gunther's title reign has been one of the worst title reigns of all time. Gunther is one of the worst wrestlers of all time. So I'm actually happy that Jey Uso won. I will admit, of course, that nobody cares about this title, but I think Jey Uso winning at least gives Jey Uso something to like write home about, right? Whereas Gunther winning would have done absolutely nothing because Gunther adds nothing to wrestling at all, right? Gunther is like, he's just like a worse version of Samoa Joe, you know what I mean? Nothing there at all, like no charisma, no personality. He has the moveset of like a PS1 video game. This guy does nothing good. But anyways, that goes on and we move on, right? We got a bunch of commercials. They start showing some celebrities. Amongst them is Rick Rubin. He's shown, nobody knows who the fuck he is, but he is a legend, right? If you know anything about rap and hip hop, Rick Rubin is one of the most important figures in the history of rap. If you don't know, go look it up, cucks. Then they show a bunch of other jobbers, including George Kittle, who was responsible for ruining my fantasy run 2 seasons ago. So I don't like him, but he chucks a beer. The people seem to care, right? Then they do a package about the New Day, and they start the package off with like the heel turn that they did on Big E, which has no bearing at all on what's happening tonight. This is not that storyline. What's happening tonight is a throwaway tag team match that nobody cares about. So we have that throwaway tag team match, and during the match and the package, I'm thinking to myself, man, they really screwed up. Like, they really screwed up the New Day heel turn. This could have been something epic, but instead it was just a pedestrian heel turn, and they're still goofs. They come out dressed like Dragon Ball Z. Meanwhile, Eric and Ivar come out dressed like Clash of Clans, which is really weird because basically, I mean, we have like, the War Raiders, who used to be the Viking Raiders, so they already look like Vikings. But because they're dressing like Clash of Clan characters, this is really weird because they're wearing like plastic helmets, right? It just looks low rent. It looks like they're doing their Viking gimmick, but with just lower level cosplay. And this is not fully loaded, motherfucks. This is WrestleMania. And that's kind of where we have to, basically like draw the line, right? This pay-per-view, if we're being honest, right? If we're being 100% honest, if this was like a throwaway like PLE, if this was like, I don't know, Great Balls of Fire 2, like I always say, then it would be obviously an acceptable PLE, right? We had some matches, some of them were decent, but if it was what it purported itself to be, night one of WrestleMania, it fell short massively. The match was exactly what you'd expect. New Day eventually win by cheating and hitting the up, down, down, or the daybreak, or the daylight, whatever the fuck it's called this week, right? The right team went over, in my opinion, but this was just a Raw match. This felt like a Raw match because it was a Raw level caliber match, right? After this, we have Naomi versus Jade. This feels like a SmackDown match, obviously, right? Naomi comes out, and then some bald douche appears with the weather, and this leads to Jade's entrance. Jade obviously wins with the Jaded. Now, I will say this. For what this was a good match. I'm going to be honest. This was legitimately a good match. I enjoyed this more than the other matches thus far, and honestly, more than most of the matches that came after it. Jade Cargill, in my opinion, is an undeniable star. They've done all they can to bury her. It's almost like someone on purpose is trying to ruin her career. That's the only explanation I can think of. Jade is a star. During this time, my fiance was watching with me, and I said, babe, the hater really likes this Jade, because, she doesn't, like, listen to my videos all the time, right? And she was like, yeah, she's like, she seems cool. And I'm like, yeah, doesn't she look like a star? And my fiance said, yeah, she looks like a star, right? So there we have it. We both enjoyed the match, and then we moved on to LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu. This was another SmackDown level match, but that's okay because this was a mid-card match, so it's fine. Every WrestleMania has like the mid-card title match. Granted, when I was growing up, the mid-card title match would be like Jericho versus Kurt Angle, or Jericho versus Benoit, or Latino Heat versus like, any one of those guys that I just mentioned. But that's not what it was now. Now it was LA Knight, who is awesome, versus Fatu, who sucks. Fatu comes out in a werewolf mask. And at this point, I gotta credit my fiance with this joke. I wish I could steal it, but the hater is not a thief. The hater is an honest man. Like, he takes off the mask, and my fiance says, wow, he's uglier under the mask, right? Like, his face is worse than the werewolf mask, right? It's just humiliating. It's like, you're wearing a werewolf mask, and you're less appealing when you take it off, And this is bolstered by the fact that at some point, Wade Barrett, who was all over the place, not in a good way tonight, he says, Jacob Fatu has been blessed with every gift a man can be given. No, he hasn't. He's not physically attractive, right? Every person in the world wants to be attractive. He's not attractive. So he hasn't been blessed with anything. All he's been blessed with is the ability to do a moonsault and, I guess some athleticism, And here's the thing. This match, if I'm being honest, this match made me appreciate Fatu a little bit because everything he did, was pretty good in the sense that LA Knight didn't get hurt, Now, to a discerning viewer like myself, you need a little bit of contact, right? But he did a good job, right? So both moonsaults that he did, because he did his finishing move twice, both moonsaults that he actually did 3 kind of, right? But the 2 that landed, he basically just does a backflip and lands on his knees and then covers LA Knight, right? He doesn't even touch LA Knight. It's actually a really, really safe, it doesn't look too good, but it's a really, really safe way to do the move. It's going to be hell for his knees, but in the context of LA Knight's not getting hurt at all. And that's exactly what you want wrestling to be. So I do appreciate that, right? And in the context of being a mid-carder, I'm perfectly fine with Jacob Fatu being a mid-carder, especially in today's day and age, right? I know in the Attitude Era, he would be like a jobber, There's absolutely zero chance that Jacob Fatu would be pinning people like Kurt Angle and Benoit, you know what I mean? Or Albert even, or Test, right? He wouldn't be pinning these guys. He'd be like, on the William Regal, Al Snow level, But it is what it is, right? Like, for today's day and age, he's a perfectly reasonable U.S. champion. This might give Solo Sikoa a few months to do something like pursue the U.S. title in their inevitable feud, because I think after that, it's all downhill. But, the match was okay. There was a spot where Jacob does the moonsault, and then basically LA Knight just catches him like Randy Orton does to people, but with the BFT instead of the RKO, which is effectively the same thing in this context, right? Jacob Fatu wins, and that's it. It was uneventful, right? He wins, and people are like, he wins, and then we move on, right? Like, there wasn't anything special that happened here. So we move on to the next match, which is supposed to be Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano, And of course, Rey Mysterio apparently got hurt last night, which sucks, because I thought to myself, wow, and I even said to my fiance, I was like, look, like, there's 61,000 people there, as we learned from HBK later, right? And you have to think a few thousand of them really are like big Mysterio fans that are like, wow, amongst everything else, I finally get to see Rey Mysterio wrestle. No, you don't, motherfucks. He got injured, and he's going to be replaced with Rey Fenix. Now, I actually enjoyed this match too. The match itself was decent, right? Both Rey Fenix and Chad Gable, or El Grande Americano, can go, right? They used the little metal plate thing, to make the point, right? And to serve as like a spot in the match. And I thought that was fine. Basically, Rey Fenix kicks Chad Gable, hurting his foot on the mask thing, right? Then Chad Gable counters a dive basically with like a headbutt, like, standing headbutt, does a top rope headbutt, and that's the end of that. He pins Rey Fenix, and that's it. El Grande Americano wins. Now, again, the match itself was good, right? But the common thread that we have in all of these matches thus far is that there's absolutely no storyline. Now, okay, fine. For some of the matches, like the title matches, I get it. It is what it is, right? Like, you don't need a storyline. For example, you don't need a storyline for LA Knight versus fucking, Jacob Fatu, right? The storyline is Jacob Fatu wants to win a title, even though he's like presented as a retard. He wants to win a title. So it is what it is. That can just stand on its own. That can just literally just stand on its own. And we can do that. We can continue with that. But, something like El Grande Americano versus Rey Mysterio, which is what I'm still latching onto, like, there's no storyline there, right? At least make it a mask versus mask match. But then what would you do? Mysterio is injured. So, it was what it was. El Grande Pendejo wins. He also did the ankle lock. There was a few good things. And I should note that Vikingo was there because apparently WWE has acquired AAA. They probably paid like 25 pesos for it because nobody watches that shit. But they acquired it, which probably means we're going to see a lot more luchadors like Vikingo. Vikingo then goes into the ring to help out Rey Fenix, and he's just a very small man. And he has like a weird, like a fucking, like, I don't know, like these weird little, like, 3 braids, like 3 Predator braids, but there's like 3 of them only. It looks really weird. I know people like Vikingo, but I don't give a fuck. I'm tired of luchadors personally, and I think we have enough already. Then we get more commercials. There's a lot of commercials in this show, as the haters said there would be. HBK comes out and says that we have about 61,000 people, and he says that there's been a lot of WrestleMania moments. Like what, motherfuck? Like Jacob Fat Poo winning? Maybe, or maybe Vikingo showing up? Nobody cares. There's been no WrestleMania moments aside from maybe Jey Uso winning. And quite frankly, I'm not really convinced that is a WrestleMania moment in and of itself, just because the person that he beat was Gunther. He beat the worst champion of all time in the opener of night 1 of WrestleMania. So, like, if this is one of those situations where it's a moment for Jey Uso, but it's not like an objective WrestleMania moment. The same way that, like, Kofi Mania was not a WrestleMania moment, really. Or the same way that Daniel Bryan beating, Batista and Orton and then Triple H as well on the same night was also not a WrestleMania moment. A WrestleMania moment is like Benoit winning, after like years and years of being in the upper mid-card and never having an opportunity, winning his first and only title, right? Daniel Bryan had already been a multiple-time world champion, Kofi Kingston, like, didn't deserve it, really. I guess you could give him one. He just, I believe that Kofi Kingston should be and should have been a one-time champion. But I don't think he should have done that at WrestleMania. that's easily like a random ass pay-per-view moment, but whatever, it is what it is, you know? It's more of a WWE moment, not so much a WrestleMania moment. Like, you know, WrestleMania moment would be like Seth Rollins cashing in and becoming champion at WrestleMania 30, I believe. Or, you know, WrestleMania moment would be like, you know, Hulk Hogan versus The Rock, right? Hogan slamming onto the Giant. These are WrestleMania moments, you know, not everything else that we just talked about. Anyways, during the aforementioned Lucha Libre match, basically, once the, you know, El Grande Americano counters the dive, that idiot Pat McAfee says, it was like Zidane Zidane. He literally says, it was like Zidane Zidane. Who the fuck is Zidane Zidane? He meant to say Zinedine Zidane, who is more famous than everyone that was shown on TV today combined. And then Pat McAfee doesn't know who the fuck Zidane is, one of the greatest soccer players of all time. I get that Americans don't like soccer, but if you're going to reference it, and you're going to reference the headbutt that was watched by like maybe like 2 billion people, or some more people than have watched the last 15 WrestleManias combined, you know what I mean? At least fucking get the name right, man. This is like one of the ongoing themes of WWE, is these like, these, you know, these people that work for WWE that just are not good at their jobs. Pat McAfee doesn't know what the fuck he's saying half the time. Michael Cole, like more on that a little bit later, but he doesn't know the difference between a neck breaker and a DDT. He's been doing this for like 30 years, man. Like a kid that watches wrestling for 2 weeks is gonna know the difference. Michael Cole doesn't even know the difference in that job that he works at for 30 years. It's fucking humiliating, man. You know? But anyways, that went down. Next up, it's Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair. The hater took a nap during this match. I'm not gonna lie. I was bored out of my fucking mind. I watched a little bit of it, but I couldn't stay awake. One thing that I will note is that when Tiffany Stratton came to the ring, it said on the little icon thing that she has been champion for 106 days, right? And that this is her third title defense, which means she averages, you know, like up until now, she's had 2 title defenses. That's what that means, right? So in 100 days, she's had 2 title defenses. So one every 50 days. So once every 2 months, she defends her title. The title has no meaning if you never defend it. This is not the UFC, motherfuckers, where you can defend the title one time a year and then pretend you're champion for 10 years, right? When there's like 100 people that can kick your ass, right? That's the problem with like modern sports, right? Like except for team sports. Team sports, it's like every year we have a tournament to determine a new champion because you can't rest on your laurels. In other sports, you can rest on your laurels. Like in the UFC, you can be the world champion. You beat some jobber, and people are like, "Wow, he's the best fighter in the world. He beat one guy this year." Right? There's hundreds of guys that would love to fight him, and some of them would whoop his ass. Right? Same thing here, but in kayfabe. You know, the match was boring. I'm pretty sure Tiffany won with a moonsault because I woke up during the replay. But for some fucking reason, one thing that was a problem here for the hater, I don't know if anyone else had this problem, but on Peacock, I couldn't rewind. You know. Like, I'm watching the live stream. I couldn't rewind it. What the fuck is that, you know? What's the point of watching it in a stream that cuts? Anyways, that went down. And now it's time for the main event, right? Basically, Punk gets a very annoying video package that chronicles, like, I guess they're trying to chronicle his time in the WWE. Like, I'm not sure what they were going for. It's just like, oh, this guy's worked hard to, like, get here. But it doesn't fucking matter. Because as the hater has established in the past, it doesn't matter if you work hard in, like, ECW or in ROH, right? This year, we're talking about this year's WrestleMania. This year, he lost the Royal Rumble, he lost the Elimination Chamber, and none of that shit mattered. He got the quote-unquote main event anyways. But as we know, this ain't no main event. It's just the final match. Then he comes out, and the band In Living Color are there to perform their song, which is his theme song. They actually did a great job. They're a good band, if I'm being honest. You know, not my kind of music personally. I don't like that like indie rock type shit. But they're a good band. You know, I can recognize that the lead singer was doing great. The guitarist was doing great. Everyone was doing great, right? The match starts, and it's absolutely nothing special. It follows the general formula of like a triple threat match, right? There's like the, you know, preliminary brawl, as I like to call it, which is often mandatory. You just have to like have the people beat each other up around the arena until everyone converges back into the ring. So this happens, taking up like 7 minutes or so. Then the match starts, and there's nothing special for the next like 10 minutes, right? The match starts getting pretty good, though, I'm not going to lie. There's a part where Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins are about to, you know, perform the Shield Powerbomb. Just them two, of course, on CM Punk. And Roman just slaps, or whatever, does a little underhand chop thing to Rollins, and then powerbombs CM Punk by himself. Then he power bombs Rollins through the other table. He puts both people through tables, the Spanish and the English announced tables, right? Pretty cool, you know? Then after this, everyone ends up in the ring where basically the match starts unfolding exactly like I planned, right? Or like I predicted. I didn't plan it, you know? So everyone does finishers to each other, but it was pretty fun, you know? Like seeing finishers is always fun. And there's a part where all three men are like laying face down on the ring. At this point, Paul Heyman, who had thus far had done absolutely nothing, which really begs the question of why did anyone want him to be in their corner if he's not going to do shit? So basically, Paul Heyman did exactly what I said he would do. He got the chair, gave it to CM Punk, right? Then betrayed CM Punk, right? I didn't think he was going to get physical. The only thing I didn't predict was the low blows. I thought he was going to tease him with the chairs and just give it to Rollins eventually. But basically what happened was he came in, he low blowed CM Punk, and Roman Reigns beat the shit out of CM Punk with the chair. After this, he was groveling at Roman Reigns, and then as Roman Reigns was about to hit Seth Rollins with a chair, Paul Heyman low blows Seth Rollins, gives the chair. Sorry, he low blows Roman Reigns, gives the chair to Rollins. Rollins hits Roman, and then does the curb stomp and pins him, right? And at this point is where shit goes out the window, in my opinion, right? Michael Cole starts saying, wow, how disgusting. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why is it disgusting when he betrays Roman and CM Punk, but it's not disgusting if he allows them to hit, Rollins with a chair? And then Michael Cole's like, I empathize with Rollins. Like, first of all, nobody gives a fuck. Number one. Number two, like, this is perfectly reasonable. You know what I mean? It's like, this is why the match sucked. Ultimately, the match itself was entertaining, but the match as a concept, right? Like the whole thing, like the beginning, middle, and end, including the setup, including the build, altogether, it was complete garbage. And the reason why it's complete garbage was twofold. Number one, I predicted it completely. So I wasn't surprised at all, and therefore I wasn't entertained. I said this in a video several videos ago, to the T. So I'm just waiting to see what unfolds. And then I'm like, oh, I realized very quick, as soon as all three were on the ground, I'm like, all right, this is the part where Paul Heyman is going to do exactly what I thought he was going to do. That's exactly what he did. So how can I be entertained by that, right? It would be like knowing exactly what happens in an action movie and then pretending you're entertained. So there you have it. Now, the execution of it was pretty good in the sense that, like, most people, like, they showed some fans, and these are people that don't understand how wrestling works, right? And that's kind of my whole shtick here, It's the same, it comes from the same place, right? When I say, like, Karrion Kross is going to be a jobber, when I say Obafemi is not going to be a superstar, and when I say this is exactly what's going to happen at WrestleMania, it comes from, like, the nuances that I've picked up on as a massive wrestling fan for a large part of my life, right? If you're a new fan who's been watching 5 years, to you, this seems like this massive, massive swerve, right? But to me, it's like, I saw this happening, right? Furthermore, the fact that it's being presented as if Paul Heyman is a bastard for doing this is ridiculous. Yes, of course, he's heelish, right? Because he's hitting people in the balls, and that's a heelish move. But he was already a heel. It's not like Paul Heyman was this honorable man, and then he turned evil, right? Paul Heyman has been pretty much, I can't think of a time when he was a face. Pretty much the entire run of Paul Heyman has been him as a heel, and then maybe he showed balls one time against Sol Sikoa. But even then, he was still a heel, And then he just did heel shit. He betrayed his client, and he went with a new client, right? He's literally betrayed everyone that he's worked with, Even Brock Lesnar. He's betrayed everybody, He's basically like the inverse of Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio gets betrayed by everybody. Paul Heyman betrays everybody. So with all that being said, where do we find ourselves? I'll tell you where we find ourselves, right? Paul Heyman is supposed to be a bad guy. In my opinion, he's a good guy. Not a good guy, but he did something that's completely reasonable, right? Everything that Seth Rollins said, like I've been saying for the past few weeks, have been completely true. The fact of the matter is, Paul Heyman gets no respect at all. He gets no respect from CM Punk, right? Who let him get his ass kicked by Solo Sikoa and friends, right? He gets no respect from Roman Reigns, visibly. Roman Reigns also didn't save him, but visibly he gets no respect, right? Like Roman Reigns didn't even care. He came back to fight Solo for the Ula Fala. He didn't even say, how dare you put your hands on the wise man, right? Maybe he said it once in passing, but that wasn't the gist of why he came back. So why should Roman Reigns and CM Punk get to abuse Paul Heyman in perpetuity? Like, isn't there a point where Paul Heyman should be like, fuck all y'alls, Fuck you. Like, I'm going to stand up for myself, and I'm going to low blow you both, Then, to add more insult to injury, I'm going to align with Seth Rollins, because he fucking hates you both, right? This actually has some promise. This is the kind of stuff that makes you want to tune in on Raw, right? But chances are, chances are Paul Heyman will be on Raw, right? Because Paul Heyman's always there, but I don't think CM Punk and Roman Reigns are going to be there. For sure. I don't think there's any chance that Roman Reigns is going to be there. CM Punk might be there, but ain't no way that they're both going to be there. So there you have it, you know what I mean? Otherwise, I'll put it to you this way, man. In terms of predictability, I basically got almost everything right. I think I said that Charlotte's going to win, so I got that one wrong, but I'm 6 for 7, you know? And more importantly than predicting the result, I predicted the repercussions of every match, right? The main event is the only one that has any repercussions. All the other things are just I want a rematch, right? Same shit's gonna happen. It's gonna be like Jacob Fatu, LA Knight wants a rematch, right? Oh, Rey Mysterio didn't get to wrestle, so he wants a match with El Grande Luchador, or whatever, right? You know, El Grande Americano, whatever. Don't blame me, motherfucks. There's also a wrestler called El Gran Luchador. But anyways, the point is, nothing was unpredictable at all. The thing is this. I will concede, right, that the predictable, at least in my opinion, main event, did feel like a WrestleMania-worthy moment, right? This felt like a big deal, you know, but it's not much bigger of a deal than when Dominic Mysterio betrayed Rhea Ripley. It's at that level, you know? Just because it involved Paul Heyman doesn't make it more interesting, right? It's the same thing. With that being said, cucks, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for Night 2 review, cuckolds.